There were always rumors that there was so much friction between Shelley Long and the cast.
Yeah.
That had to be was that true?
There was, there was a little, but, she left and then we had Kirsty and life moved on.
Yeah.
When you think of groundbreaking sitcom actresses, one name shines brighter than most: Shelley Long, whose portrayal of the witty and sophisticated Diane Chambers on Cheers captured the hearts of millions. The show, a defining gem of the 80s, brought viewers into a Boston bar where Long's sharp-tongued character created sizzling on-screen chemistry with Ted Danson's charming Sam Malone, leaving audiences on the edge of their seats with their enticing will-they-won't-they romance through the first 5 seasons. So when Long made the jaw-dropping decision to walk away from the series at the height of its popularity, fans were left dumbfounded and craving answers. At 75, Shelley is finally ready to share her reasons behind her polarizing choice. A sudden departure from TV's biggest show.
Hello? Sam? Are you Sam? Yes, he's here. Someone named Vicky.
No.
No, she knows you're here. I told her you're here.
When Shelley Long chose to leave Cheers in 1987, it sent shockwaves through the industry. At the time, the show wasn't just popular, it was a cultural phenomenon, pulling in millions of viewers each week and defining primetime comedy. The chemistry between Shelley's Diane and Ted Danson's Sam Malone was electric, and the on-again, off-again romance kept audiences hooked. Diane was witty, academic, and often absurdly philosophical, an unusual character to anchor a mainstream sitcom, but Long made it work. Her departure was all the more jarring because she left voluntarily, rather than being written off or replaced due to creative disputes from producers. Behind the scenes, there was genuine concern about whether Cheers could survive without her. Co-creator Les Charles later admitted her exit triggered sheer panic, and Glenn Charles echoed the sentiment, acknowledging that many critics believed the show wouldn't last without the Sam and Diane dynamic. Ted Danson later remarked, Shelley gave Cheers its initial thrust and credibility, helping the show find its tone and rhythm from day one. While Danson and Long had different acting styles, that contrast made for some of the show's most memorable scenes, and the creators knew that dynamic was hard to replicate. So why would anyone walk away from such success? For Shelley Long, the answer was deeply personal. She had begun to feel that both the character of Diane and the show itself were becoming creatively stagnant. In her own words, quote, Diane was a pain in the butt, and she started to blur the lines between herself and the role. The intensity of playing Diane took a toll, and Long realized she needed space, not just to explore new roles, but also to reconnect with her real-life priorities. That included her family. By the late 80s, Long had a young daughter at home and was yearning for a more balanced life. The relentless pace of a weekly sitcom left little room for that. At the same time, Long was hopeful that the success of Cheers would open the door to a flourishing movie career, an opportunity she couldn't pass up. It wasn't a decision made lightly, but one driven by the sense that she had taken Diane Chambers as far as she could go. Creative friction and the cost of fame.
I knew that I had a 5-year contract, and as did everyone else, and so the discussion of what was going to happen following that 5-year contract had come up around the 4th year, I think. And Ted, I believe it was the 4th year, or prior to the 4th year, that he extended his 5-year contract to 6. So that discussion was ongoing, and I pretty much indicated that I was ready to devote more time to my family, and I already had my contract with Disney by that point. So although I hadn't given them a final decision, I'd indicated where I was going, so they wouldn't be left without some sense of where they were going.
I've been annoyed by the comments and the constant question of, do you regret? Do you ever regret? It's, I love them, and I like being with them. And I sincerely wanted more time with them, which I got. I wanted to go ahead and take advantage of the Disney contract, which I had to make movies.
As I say, you know, I believe in this very strongly, in making choices out of what feels right. And a lot of people thought I was crazy to go from a motion picture career, which was just budding, but it was starting to happen before I ever signed on Cheers. And who knew what Cheers was going to become? You know, probably those of you who've watched the show know that in our first season, you know, we were at the bottom. as good as we were, and we were, I think, just as good the first year as we were the last, but we were at the bottom, so who knew, you know? But it felt right to me to do the show, and it felt that I had completed my obligation and was ready for other things.
As more details emerged in the years after her departure, it became clear that Shelley Long's decision wasn't just about family or career ambitions, it was also about creative friction. Ted Danson has since admitted he was initially skeptical of Long's casting, feeling their styles might clash, but it turned out that tension added spark to their scenes, creating a dynamic that defined the series. Still, those stylistic differences also caused strain behind the scenes, even if they didn't explode into open conflict. Rumors persisted for years that Long was difficult to work with. Some cast members felt she brought a theatrical seriousness to a set that otherwise thrived on quick comedic instincts. In a 1993 interview with Entertainment Weekly, Long acknowledged the criticism, saying, quote, "I think the people of Cheers got me confused with Diane. Maybe I did too." This growing disconnect between Shelley and her fictional counterpart made it emotionally exhausting to return to the role week after week. The show's creators also felt the impact of her departure more deeply than fans realized at the time. According to Glenn Charles, Shelley's performance in the pilot gave Cheers its defining tone, sophisticated yet absurd, intellectual yet emotionally raw. Her exit left a gap not easily filled. Although Kirstie Alley eventually became a strong comedic presence in her own right as Rebecca Howe, she was never meant to be another Diane. The show had to evolve quickly or risk collapsing under the weight of its own early success. Long's departure didn't just challenge the showrunners, it also strained relationships within the cast. While Ted Danson later expressed respect and affection for Shelley, others reportedly felt abandoned. After all, Cheers had been a tight-knit ensemble, and removing one of its central pillars caused uncertainty. Still, despite any lingering resentment, the professional admiration remained. Long's portrayal of Diane Chambers had already cemented her place in TV history. Even though critics were harsh, Time magazine notoriously called her departure, quote, "one of the greatest career stumbles in show business history," Long herself never expressed regret. She stood by her choice, believing that staying longer would have left her feeling creatively and personally depleted. Life after Cheers.
I'm the best thing that could have happened to you, and you're too stupid to realize it.
Are you kidding me? You are the worst thing that happened to me. And before you came here, I was a happy man.
You honestly believe you were happier before you met me than you are now?
Hell yes. I mean, how do you think it feels to be attracted to someone that makes you sick?
I could write a book on the subject.
I've never regretted the decision. I've been annoyed by the comments and the constant question of, do you regret? Do you ever regret? Do you ever? I don't regret it. I've said it over and over again.
After leaving Cheers, Shelley Long tried to translate her sitcom success into a film career. Her first few projects were promising. In 1986, while still on Cheers, she co-starred with Tom Hanks in The Money Pit, a comedy that did reasonably well at the box office. Soon after, she starred in Outrageous Fortune alongside Bette Midler, followed by the fantasy comedy Hello Again. These roles showed her range and charisma, but none achieved the critical or commercial impact of Cheers. Long's attempt to reinvent herself as a film star hit a wall. While she remained a familiar face, her movies often failed to leave a lasting impression. Some became cult favorites, like Troop Beverly Hills and the Brady Bunch movie, where she played a pitch-perfect Carol Brady, but they didn't launch her into the A-list status she may have hoped for. The grind of Hollywood proved to be just as consuming as network television, only without the safety net of an ensemble cast and weekly audience. Still, she was never entirely absent from television. She made guest appearances on several shows through the 90s and 2000s, and even reprised her role as Diane Chambers on Frasier. These appearances were warmly received and gave fans nostalgic glimpses of the character they'd grown to love. Her return to the Cheers finale in 1993 also provided closure to the Sam and Diane storyline, confirming that their romance, while iconic, had run its course. In the end, her post-Cheers career may not have rivaled the heights of her sitcom success, but it also allowed her to live on her own terms. Behind the scenes, production turmoil and script changes,
It was a great show, great opportunity. I loved coming back and doing the last episode, but don't ever ask me that question again, okay?
It was truly, I think, one of the hardest decisions of my life, not just of my career, but of my life. But I wanted more time with that little girl.
Shelley's exit wasn't just a turning point for the cast, it was a logistical challenge for the Cheers production team. The writers had built 5 seasons of narrative around the Sam and Diane romance. Their witty banter, unresolved tension, and slow-burning love story were the backbone of the show. When Long made her decision to leave official, the producers were forced to rethink everything, from scripts to casting to long-term story arcs. To guard against spoilers and perhaps to even buy time to change her mind, producers famously filmed 3 different endings to the season 5 finale. Only one version, where Diane leaves to pursue her writing career, aired to the public. The others, including one in which Sam and Diane actually marry, were shot but never broadcast. This tactic showed how uncertain everyone was about Shelley's decision and how vital she remained to the show's identity. The writing team, led by Glenn and Les Charles, had to pivot fast. Introducing Kirstie Alley as Rebecca Howe in Season 6 meant completely reimagining the show's female lead. Rather than try to replicate Diane's literary intelligence and romantic idealism, they opted for a more career-focused, neurotic character with her own distinct quirks. This was a deliberate shift and a wise one. Trying to recast Diane or mimic Shelley Long's unique delivery would have risked alienating viewers even more. Now in her mid-70s, Shelley Long is finally speaking more openly about her years on Cheers. In a recent interview, she reaffirmed that her decision was driven by professional fatigue and a desire to be more present for her daughter. She also rejected the notion that she left because of any deep-seated animosity toward her castmates. While she acknowledged occasional friction, she emphasized that the rumors of major feuds were exaggerated. As she put it, quote, "The worst thing that could have happened was if I had stayed too long." Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Shelley made the right call walking away from Cheers after Season 5? Let us know in the comments section below.